is where the Army weather is brutal winter, at Valley Forge, where General George Washington led his men on a daring mission, across the Delaware, and where our Union was saved by the immortal heroes, at Gettysburg. Gettysburg, what an unbelievable battle. That was the Battle of Gettysburg, what an unbelievable, I mean, it was so much and so interesting, and so vicious and horrible and so beautiful, and so many different ways. It represented such a big portion of the success of this country. Gettysburg, wow, you can pluck me out of bed today, and drop me into a quantum physics class, which I know exactly zero about, and still, I would be able to bullshit my way through it more believably than Donald Trump just discussed Gettysburg. I mean, dear God dude, if you're gonna talk about Gettysburg, then at least try to know something, anything about Gettysburg, but just some free advice here, calling it quote, so much and so vicious, and so interesting and so horrible, and so beautiful doesn't make you sound knowledgeable or profound, it makes you sound like you don't know what the fuck went on at Gettysburg. And look, with all of the dangers being posed by the MAGA wing of the Republican Party, it seems silly to focus on something so trivial, and let's be clear, half of the reason for this is just to show you what an idiot this guy is, but the other half is to convey the fatal flaw, and Republicans' attacks against Joe Biden, and his mental state, we have set, idly by his Republicans, have maligned Biden as being in the throes of cognitive decline, but in reality, all they're doing is projecting to hide the fact that their nominee, Donald Trump, has the mental acuity of a bag of rocks, and it's not just his glaring lack of knowledge on the basic history of this very country that he literally presided over. Here are just a few of the gems from the last few weeks alone. As you know, crooked Joe Biden and the radical left thugs, who have weaponized law enforcement to arrest their leading political opponent, that leading by a lot, including Obama. It was, I'll tell you, what you take a look at Obama, and take a look at some of the things that he's done. This is the same thing. The country is very divided. The opposing party president, if it's the opposing party, will indict the president for doing something that should have been good, like Obama, dropped a miss, and they ended up hitting a kindergarten or school, or the apartment house. A lot of people were killed. Well, if that's the case, he's going to end up being indicted. When he leaves office, he meant well. The missile went in the wrong direction. We have a man who is totally corrupt, and the worst president in the history of our country, who is cognitively impaired and no condition to leave, and is now in charge of dealing with Russia? Possible nuclear war. Just think of, we would be a World War II. By the way, they never report the crowd on January 6th. You don't. Nikki Haley, you know they do, you know, they destroyed all of the information, all of the evidence, everything deleted and destroyed all of it. Because of lots of things like Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people, is on our business, is what you're doing. That he said Macron, nice guy, you know, look, he's for France, I'm for us, I'm for us, you know, you spell us right, you spell us, you ask, I just picked that up, has anyone ever thought of that being? I just picked that up a couple of days, I'm reading and it said us and I said, you know, if you think about it, us equals, us, isn't that now? If we say something genius, they'll never say that, you know, I was very honored as a man. Viktor Orban, did anyone ever hear of him? He's probably like one of the strongest leaders anywhere in the world, and he is the leader of all right, he's the leader of Turkey, so on both Russia. It's less than 4 months before the season starts. We started in Iowa, we go to New Hampshire, we come down here, you know, the beauty was when I came here, everyone thought Bush was going to win, and then they took a poll and they found out Trump was up by about 50 points. Everyone said, what's going on right here? They thought Bush, because Bush supposedly was a military person, great, you know what, he was a miller, he got us into the Middle East. How did that work out? Right, and now they're getting hit very hard by the North, and I'm really shocked that the Obama administration can be out there saying, I hope they don't attack from the why. Are they doing that? How stupid a statement, and I could go on, but probably better to spare you considering that, as a lot of stupid to take in all at once. In fact, Trump's declining mental state has become so obvious that Nikki Haley, his own ambassador, was calling it out last night. Trump is at a rally during the Capitol riots. Why didn't handle January 6th better? I wasn't even in DC, and on January 6th, I wasn't in office. Then, they're saying he got confused, that he was talking about something else. He thought not Nancy Close. He mentioned me multiple times in that scenario. The concern I have is, I'm not saying anything derogatory, but when you're dealing with the pressures of a presidency, we can't have someone else that we question whether they're mentally fit to do this. We can't. Even Fox's Jessica Harloff pointed it out on Fox's R, and I put together some of Trump's latest cognitive beauties from the last 10 days. He said, "You need an ID to buy bread. Has anyone shown ID to get Wonder Bread lately?" He said that he ran against Obama in 2016. He ran against Hillary Clinton. He warned that Biden will get us into World War II, which I'm pretty sure we already fought and won. And yesterday, he confused Jeb Bush and George W. Bush, and said that Jed got us involved in the Middle East. And then, of course, there are his authoritarian posts on Truth Social, calling for the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to be executed. And Segment is going to investigate media companies that he doesn't like. And can you imagine if Biden said, "You know what, I'm gonna look into that Fox News this. They don't seem to like me over there." So again, the point of all of this is to explain why we keep hearing this narrative that Joe Biden is in cognitive decline. It is to compensate for the fact that Donald Trump is falling apart before our very eyes. Joe Biden can trip over a sandbag one time in 2021, but Trump goes on a street about how Nikki Haley was in charge of the Capitol on January 6th, and how Obama is the current president, and how World War II hasn't happened yet, and how you need ID to buy bread, and how the letters US for United States also spelled the word us, and how the Battle of Gettysburg was beautiful. Trump does all of that, and it's crickets from the media. The right-wing media ecosystem can plainly see what's happening with Trump, and they know that if they don't get ahead of it with hysterical coverage about Joe Biden, that people will start to see Donald Trump for who he is, and clearly that wouldn't do it many favors. Here's another reason why it's so important for Republicans to hammer away at this narrative that Biden's incompetent. It is to try and erase the fact that his actual success, borrow or clips, is what Trump did when he was in office. Joe Biden's presiding over the strongest recovery in American history. He said it the most jobs of any president in the history of this country. Unemployment has been below 4% for 26 straight months, the longest stretch in over 50 years. GDP is surging, wages are outpacing inflation. Inflation itself is flat. Consumer sentiment is skyrocketing. This is the economy that Republicans campaign on creating, while never managing to actually deliver it. At that sort of the long list of legislative, the American Rescue Plan, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Law, the Gun Safety Law, the PACT Act, a CHIPS Act, 3 Authorization of Violence Against Women Act, codifying marriage equality into federal law, forgiving $153 billion of student loan debt for 4.3 million people, and fortifying NATO amid Russia's war against Ukraine. Not only is Joe Biden a competent president, but he's managed the most progressive and successful presidency of our lifetimes, even turning Trump-era punchlines into actual legislative wins. Contrast that with Donald Trump, whose only legislative achievement during his presidency was a tax cut that overwhelmingly favored millionaires and billionaires. He promised an infrastructure plan and never delivered. He promised a healthcare plan and never delivered. He promised a middle-class tax cut and never delivered. And he promised record jobs and never delivered. He promised an extraordinary presidency, and he did give us that, just not in the way that we expected, considering he lost the most jobs in modern American history. Historic, yes, successful, no. If you're wondering why Trump and his allies are so hell-bent on framing Biden as being in the throes of cognitive decline, this is why it is nothing more than projection. They all recognize very clearly what Trump's principal weakness is, and so in order to neutralize that, they're working in overdrive to try and diffuse that weakness onto Biden per usual. Every accusation is a confession, so the next time any of the right's full accomplices in the mainstream media takes the bait and makes Biden's mental state the center of attention, ask them why they're silent on the issue of Trump's mental state as to why Trump gets a pass, as the more Trump gets graded on the curve as them. What it says that Trump would fail a third-grade history exam. Republicans have certainly learned how to gain the refs, but the reason is obvio.